What's going on, nation? I'm Scott from MuscularStrength.com, and today, guys, I'm going to save you from the embarrassment of skinny legs. However, the problem usually isn't with the quads. Most people hit those every week. But when it comes to the hamstrings, I don't see too many people in my gym attacking them all that often. And if you want that thick, nice, round look, you need to prioritize them. And not to mention that they also go hand in hand with increasing your squat and your deadlift. But before we get started with my 3 hacks for bigger hamstrings, if you guys have enjoyed my videos and tips, be sure to click that notification bell so you never miss a new video upload from me. Alright, so hack number 1. Don't ignore the basic function of the hamstrings. Unfortunately, most people only focus on isolation exercises for hamstrings, and believe it or not, this can lead to an injury because the hamstrings will start to learn to work as an isolated muscle group as opposed to with the glutes. So, if your program or your workout program only consists of performing isolation type movements for the hamstrings, you're training them the way that they're not supposed to be trained for maximum performance. So if this sounds like you, make sure when you train your hamstrings that you start your workouts with exercises that involve hip extension, like deadlifts, hip thrusts, glute bridges, or squats. This will help avoid a future hamstring injury because these exercises train the glutes and hamstrings together, which is their intended function, not just knee flexion. Hack number 2, focus on overloading your hamstrings during the stretch. So once you guys have incorporated some of the exercises from hack 1 into your routine, don't just run to a prone leg curl or a seated leg curl as your next exercise. Yeah, exercises like these can give you a good flex, but the stretch is non-existent, and that is where you get the most muscle damage for regrowth. Now, I'm not going to say that the prone leg curl or seated leg curl are bad exercises, but you need to utilize the proper order of these movements to see the most gains. For instance, you get much more muscle damage for regrowth from exercises that require a deep stretch, such as a Romanian deadlift, and this movement should be a staple in your hamstrings training. So, let's go over proper form. Now, there's a few things you have to keep in mind before we even get started with the movement. Number 1, unless you got really freaky flexibility, which I'm going to guarantee isn't the majority of you watching this video, the weight should not touch the ground in between your reps. It should hover an inch or 2 above the ground every single time. Basically, you're going to be bringing the barbell down to about mid-shin level. Number 2, you're not doing a traditional squat stance. So, if you squat with a wide stance like this or your toes pointed out, that's not what you're doing here. When doing the Romanian deadlift, you actually want to stand with your feet about shoulder width apart and your toes facing forward. So your heels should be under your shoulders when performing this movement. And the last thing you have to keep in mind for this exercise, guys, is there is no spinal flexion during the movement, and that's where most people go wrong with the exercise, which is why they get lower back pain and why they don't ever really feel their hamstrings stretching. And just to be clear, flexion is when you bend over like this. This is called spinal flexion. This is called spinal extension. We want to stay in this position the entire time, keeping our chest up. So let's get started with the movement. So first things first, guys, you're going to get over to your barbell, and you're going to stand with your feet, like I said, about shoulder width apart. Then once in place, what you want to do is you want to reach down and grab the barbell a little outside of shoulder width so that your hands don't grind down your thighs as you go up and down. And you're just going to deadlift the bar to get into position. Now, once you're in position, keep those toes straight, get a firm grip on that barbell. Then as you lower the weight, you're going to sit back while keeping your chest up. And the bar should drag down your thighs. And then as soon as the bar gets to about your knee height, what you're going to do is try to sit back even more, keeping that arch in your back. And by the time you get to about mid-shin level, you should feel a deep stretch in your hamstrings. And as you guys can see, the bar at this point is still almost 3 inches off the ground. As soon as you get to that deep stretch, come back to the top of the movement, and then repeat. And even though I was demonstrating, guys, you still want to go nice and slow like this as you go down. This is not a fast movement. It's a slow movement so you can feel the hamstring stretching. Hold that stretch for a second, and then return back to the top before repeating for reps. If you do this exercise too fast, you will not feel the hamstrings getting that nice deep stretch. So if you've been doing it too fast in the past, try to really slow it down to get the form correct, and then you'll find that nice sweet spot where you're able to perform multiple reps in a row without going into spinal flexion and really feeling those hamstrings ripping and tearing. And now I know you guys are going to ask about stiff leg deadlifts, and to be honest with you, they're inferior exercise when compared to Romanians in terms of targeting the hamstrings, and they actually will place a bit more emphasis on your lower back and your glutes, and I'll explain to you why. The whole reason why a Romanian deadlift works so well is because as you go down, you're bending your knees and you're sitting back, and it's this process of sitting back which gets that real deep tear and stretch through the hamstrings. When doing a stiff leg deadlift, and to be honest with you guys, most people do this wrong, and I'm going to show you why. You actually need to stand on a platform in order to do this exercise correctly, because you need to get your hands as close to the ground as possible for full range of motion of the movement. Also, some other changes here too. It's a stiff leg, so your legs are going to be straight the entire time. And we're also going to be going into spinal flexion, which is why, like I said in the beginning, it hits a lot more lower back. So what does it mean if this movement's targeting a lot more lower back? Well, it means that you're certainly not going to be able to lift as much weight to overload your hamstrings because your lower back can only handle so much weight when doing a bent over movement. So stiff leg deadlift, legs are stiff, you come all the way down, you're still sitting back, but now you're going into full spinal flexion until you reach the bottom of the movement, and then you're picking the weight back up. So keep those legs nice and stiff, lock out those knees all the way down, full spinal flexion, and then all the way back up. So you guys can try it if you want, but after doing one set of each, you'll instantly realize that the Romanians are the superior exercise you should be doing. And the third and final hack, guys, finish off your hamstrings with volume. Now that your hamstrings are pre-exhausted, they are primed for some serious muscle stimulation, and we're going to do that by attacking them with volume. But instead of going straight to an isolation movement like a prone leg curl, we're going to combine our tip from hack number 1 with an exercise that will allow you to get both the benefits of the flex while also working the glutes and core to ensure the hamstrings continue to work together with the glutes. So the exercise you're going to perform is the bodyweight hamstring curl on an exercise ball. So to perform this movement, all you need is an exercise ball, but it's going to be much more than just bringing your heels to your butt, guys. A lot of people, they go to the gym, they do this exercise, they get into position, and they just do this. Like, there's no thought process going on whatsoever. That's not what we're trying to do. Now that the hamstrings are pre-exhausted from the other exercises, we want to overload them with volume, but we can only do that if we perform the exercise properly, and I'll explain what I mean. Now remember, we want the hamstrings to work in unison with the glutes. So before you even start the exercise, you're going to flex your glutes and extend your hips to the ceiling like this. Once in place, you're going to bring your heels to your butt, and as you bring them to your butt, you're going to flex your hamstrings and your glutes as hard as possible at the bottom of the movement. Once you do that, you're going to return to the starting position and repeat for reps. And every single time you do a rep, you're extending, and as you bring your feet in, you're flexing your glutes and hamstrings as hard as you can before returning back to the starting position. And that is how you're going to finish off your hamstrings and continue to teach them to work in unison with your glutes while overloading with volume. Now, if you don't have an exercise ball, you can also perform the movement by hanging from a barbell with your feet on a bench. Once in place, all you have to do is pull through with your heels. But make sure your body is angled down so you can get a full flex during the movement. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to smash that like button. And if you're looking for a new program, guys, check out my site, muscularstrength.com. No gimmicks, just great programs with proven results. And as always, more good stuff coming soon. See you guys.